Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing on this fabulous Monday afternoon? As promised, I am back with another vlog. Yes, I am aiming to do them weekly, as I think that's the best I can actually do at the moment until whatever happens in the future. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a great weekend. Thank you so much for all the love and support I got. The comments were really sweet. I just kind of put the video out there not knowing who's going to respond, because it's been like such a long time since I posted, and obviously you think, well, you know, your subscribers aren't really looking out for your videos anymore because you haven't posted in such a long time. But all the comments were so encouraging, welcoming me back, and just saying they're excited that I was posting and wanting to see what else I was going to do in the future. So I really appreciate that. So thank you for all of those of you who took the time to like and to comment. I really appreciate it, and that really encouraged me to keep on going. Not that I was thinking of quitting or anything, it was just really nice to see all of you and just to see such positive comments in the comment section. So I really appreciate that. So today is going to be a bit of a story time, and it's going to be about the journey that led up to my operations. And this was requested by Christine, so I thank you for giving me the idea. So we need to like rewind all the way back to school. So I went to a school in Southwest London, but I had a really good time at school. I really enjoyed that school. And there's a boy in this school who's a year above me. He always took an exception to me. I've never known why. The only thing I can think of is that I'm Nigerian, I'm African, and he seemed to have a dislike about Africans. He was a Caribbean guy, I don't know from what part of the Caribbean, but he seemed to dislike Africans, which to me was his own business. And one day, and I was between the ages of 14 to 16, I can't quite remember, but we were in a classroom and we were watching a film or something. I know it's like break time. It wasn't a lesson because he was in that room. He was a year above me, so there's never a time that we'd ever be in the same classroom. And so he was sitting on a row of tables behind me, and I was sitting on a row of tables just in front. Didn't say anything to him. Didn't do anything to him. Then all of a sudden I felt this sharp pain on my back, and I kind of like, jolted forward, and I went said, "Ow!" Do you know what I mean? I turned and I saw him withdrawing the drumstick, and I swore at him. I can't remember what I said, like, you effing whatever. And he just seemed to think he was a bit of a giggle, do you know what I'm saying? I think he was trying to impress some girl or whatever. And I felt that really hurt. At first I thought it was a pin, but then I saw it was a drumstick. Then later on he saw me just like made some kind of like snarky comment, like, you know, laughing about what I said or whatever. I thought, you're just such a waste of human flesh. You really are, seriously. And that was my one and only kind of running like that with this guy. And yeah, every once in a while he'd see me say something stupid, but again, I haven't got time for him. And then over the years, this thing was growing, but I don't even know when I really started to observe that it was growing. I remember on the day it happened, I went back home and I looked, I could see like a little bit of a mark there. But I thought, okay, well, that's obviously where he poked me or whatever. And periodically I'd be checking on it, and like it would change colour and be dark. Like, you know, like I don't know, if you scratch yourself, like particularly on black skin, if you scratch yourself or you get some kind of trauma to your skin, over time it leaves a scar, just like a dark mark. And that's what that looked like. But it had a little bit of a dent to it, but I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, well, that's what's happened. You know, the human body, that's what happens sometimes, right? And then over the years I began to notice that area was changing and it was growing, but again, I didn't know what I was dealing with, so I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was a keloid, because I know that particularly with black skin or with people from the Mediterranean, if there is a scarring or a trauma to the skin, it can result in a keloid. So that's what I thought that was. And I don't know when I started to know it was really kind of becoming very raised and coming off my skin, but it was years and years later. I was in my 20s then when I really noticed it, my late 20s at that, when I noticed it. And I believe, I'm trying to remember because like I wasn't really documenting any of these things, but I believe I was in my early 30s, possibly my early 30s, when I went to go and see the doctor to check it out, to see, you know, what I can do about it. And she goes, oh, well, it's a keloid, you know, there's nothing really much you can do about it. There's no treatment that can be given to you to get rid of it. And she goes, the only other alternative would be surgery. But if you've got skin that keloids, surgery's not a good idea because I can make it keloid even more. So I thought, okay, well, that wasn't particularly helpful of you, but okay, I guess you know what you're talking about. And then it was now when I was in my 40s, I went to go and see another doctor because it's still growing. It just got to the point where I was observing. It seemed to be growing and changing shape from month to month. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's what was concerning me. And it turns out, those last 6 months of me having it, it was really changing shape pretty much every single week. So I went to go and see this doctor with the intention of asking her if she could refer me for surgery to cut the keloid off. I just thought it would be like a day surgery thing. Do you know what I mean? You'd be awake and they'd just like numb the area and cut it off and whatever. So when she examines me, she said to me, "What made you think it was a keloid?" And I said, "Well, that's what the doctor I saw some years ago said to me." She goes, "I don't think that's what it is. I think it's actually some kind of skin tumour." She goes, "I think it's Dfsp." I was like, "What's that?" And it turns out it's this big long name, so bear with me. It's DermatoFibroSarcoma Protuberans. DermatoFibroSarcoma Protuberans. That's why they shorten it to DFSP. Long thing. And this is a rare tumour of the dermis layer of the skin, and it's classified as a sarcoma. It's so rare there's only 1 case per million a year. So I did a bit of a survey. I wanted to know how many people live in the UK. It says there's 55.27 million. I'm not going to bother with the 27, but let's just take it as 55 million, yeah? So that would mean that in a year, only 55 people would get this thing, would be diagnosed as having this thing. That's how rare it is. So I was like, what? I thought, nah, surely that can't be. And she referred me to St George's Hospital for a biopsy to be done. I remember thinking on the day, like, wow, just imagine, I just came to ask her about how I could have a keloid removed, and she sent me away telling me I've got a form of skin cancer. I was like, you've got to be joking. But I went to St George's and saw the professor, and he booked for me to have a biopsy. And so I remember when he drew on the tumour where he wanted me to biopsy from, and it was, the tumour had gone so big by that time, the skin was so stretched, I didn't need any numbing agent because I couldn't feel a thing. So the girl cut it. I remember, so funny, when I went off going to do the biopsy, the girl cut it, and when she was now panicking because she didn't know how to close it because the skin was so porous, it was so thin, you couldn't sew it up because the thread would just like go straight through it. So I remember she rushed next door to try and get her colleague, and it ended up having to cauterize it just to stop the bleeding. And so they said they'd send the results to my GP, and the results came back that she was right. It was in actual fact DFSP. And so I had to go back and see the surgeon again. We made an appointment for me to see the surgeon, and then we had made an appointment to have the operation 2 weeks from that day. But the week prior, I noticed that it was bleeding. I think the bottom of my brow was rubbing against it, and so because the skin was so thin, it started to bleed. I was at my mum's house at the time. I remember there's this beautiful maroon shirt that someone had given me, and it bled through that. So I had to like wash that and like try and like stem the bleeding from the area, and then it stopped. And then that was a Sunday. The following day was a Monday. I was working in an office, and just as I'd shut everything down to go home, I felt this warm trickle down my back, and I thought, what's that? And I put my hands back and looked. It was blood. And just to backtrack slightly, the tumour was so big that I couldn't sit flush against the chair like I'm sitting against this one now. It was so big I couldn't do that. And there's this big lump poking through my clothes. That's how big the thing was. I might insert a picture of it here. So if you're easily creeped out, don't look. I'm going to insert it here. Okay, you can look back now. And so yeah, so there I saw his blood. So I made my way over to the nearest hospital. I think that was King George's Hospital, and that was in Denmark Hill. That's the closest to where I was working at the time. And so they looked at it, they looked at my notes and everything, because the notes were computerized, and said, yeah, we're going to have to bring forward the operation to tomorrow because you're bleeding quite heavily. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so they did say that if it starts bleeding again, call the ambulance and get them to take you to your hospital. So I got back home. I was like, my head was spinning a bit because I thought this is happening so fast. And then I hadn't been home for up to 10 minutes when the tumour started to bleed again. And it was really bleeding quite profusely. So I had to call the ambulance, and in the meanwhile I was like packing a few clothes that I could put together in a bag to be able to be taken up to the hospital. So I took me up to the hospital, and they did this really neat, tiny little, I I don't know how to, they did some kind of knot in a bandage and put it around the wound, and somehow it stopped bleeding. When I got there, they said, okay, yeah, we're making arrangements for you to have the operation tomorrow, which now meant that the original surgeon, Dr. Powell, would not be able to do it because by that time he was away on holiday. He got away on holiday planning to operate me the following week, but then this thing happened. So I remember the morning of the surgery, like they would give me the IV and this, that, and the other, and whatever, and I'd been sitting against the pillow. And then when they told me to lean forward the pillow so they can take it away so I can go downstairs, the entire pillow was soaked with blood. From top to bottom with soaked blood. They had to throw it away, right? So then they led me down to the place was going to be anaesthetised, and the guy was talking to me about what I should expect and so on and so forth. And then I went into the room to go and get my anaesthetics done. And I was just starting to panic when he'd put the thing in, the anaesthetic kicked in. And it turns out I was under anaesthetic and in surgery for almost 5 hours. One by one, the different people who've been involved in the operation came up to tell me that it was a very, not quite touch and go, but it was a very tough surgery. He said it was a very aggressive sort of tumour that I had, and they actually had to give me a blood transfusion. I was like, whoa, blood transfusion? And the first thing that went through my mind was, oh my gosh, HIV. Do you know what I mean? I didn't agree to a blood transfusion, but they had no choice because apparently the wounds wouldn't set. Like it wouldn't clot, my blood wouldn't clot. So I just kept on losing blood wherever they made the incision. So they had to like give me a blood transfusion, and eventually everything calmed down, and I was able to, they were able to stitch me up and have the stitches stay. And what they'd done was they'd taken out the tumour, but what I hadn't realised, no, I had realised actually, the doctor was originally going to take a skin graft from the opposite side of my back and do like what they call a trapezoid flap. So it'd still be attached, but like be twisted by a knot in the middle and attached over this side. But the surgeon who was doing it said he didn't think that was a good idea. So he shaved skin from my right side and attached it to the thing, to the wounds, and they'd stitched in 2 tubes into this side they'd taken the skin graft from to like, you've got to like drain excess fluids and all that kind of stuff. So when I came to, I was heaving like crazy because anaesthetic really messes you up. Do you know what I'm saying? That's why I can't understand why people just go through plastic surgery for vanity purposes. If you're really scarred or you have something that's really visible, that's really making you miserable, you want to change it, okay, fair enough. But apart from that, I don't understand why people put themselves in that position, because the anaesthetic is no joke at all. When you're on that surgeon's table, anything can happen. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're putting your life in someone else's hands. And for me to do that just for vanity is a bit crazy. Do you know what I'm saying? And even, there's me talking about vanity, I had my wig on. When I woke up, they'd taken off my wig, you know, and I had these rough plaits underneath. I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my gosh, why did they take off my wig? I don't know if it came off when they tried to flip me on the table or whatever. But when I woke up, I was sans wig. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. And I had all these, my cameras underneath were a bit dusty. Do you know what I'm saying? They weren't neat and perfect. So I was like, this is just, talk about stripping away my pride. You know what I mean? It's absolutely hilarious. But anyway, so that took me a while to recover from, because I think the thing that takes the most time to recover from is an anaesthetic, is a general anaesthetic, and it's very strong. It's very, very strong. So it took me a good few weeks to really fully recover from that. And they said, like, you know, I had to keep very, very still. So actually during that time, that's when I discovered YouTube, because there was nothing I could do but lie in a bed and literally be a statue and only move when I need to go to the bathroom or get something to eat. Beyond that, I was not to move at all. I didn't really obey that in the beginning because I couldn't see what the point was. I thought, well, why would I need to sit still? I'm fine. And then I tried to take some laundry from my room into here, where the washing machine is, and that wiped me out for 3 days. So I learnt my lesson. I just sat still from that point on and didn't do anything, and I recovered a lot quicker as a result. So that was good. And yeah, it hasn't really bothered me since. I mean, like, it did on occasion go through my mind, wow, all of this as a result of that guy jabbing me in the back with a drumstick. That did flow through my mind at some point during that time. And then I remember it was November 2017. I was staying up at my other sister's house in North London because I had an early call time for a film I was working on. I just happened to turn over my bed and my hand just like went like that. And I felt a lump. And my heart immediately skipped a beat. I thought, oh my gosh, what's that? I tried to wriggle around thinking, maybe that's my shoulder blades. And I realised it was not my shoulder blades. It was definitely a lump. So the very next day, I made an appointment to see the doctors because I couldn't do it that day because I was filming from very early in the morning to very late at night. So the next day I made an appointment to go and see the doctor. And they had to look at it and they said, okay, what do you think it is? I was like, well, mate, you're the doctor. You went to university. You tell me what it is. Do you know what I'm saying? Why are you asking that question? I didn't say that. That's what I was thinking because it doesn't make sense. What do you mean? What do I think it is? Examine it and tell me what it is. Do you know what I'm saying? And so the woman asked me, okay, would you want us to cut it out, or is something you want us to keep an eye on? I said, well, if it needs cutting out, cut it out. But if it's something that's just like, you know, some growth on my back, that's not a problem, then fair enough, leave it, I don't really care. So we arranged for me to go back to, where was it now? Was it King's? I think it was St George's again, but a different department. And we did another biopsy, and the biopsy came back that it was a recurrence of Dfsp. Now, I was told originally that it wouldn't recur, but when I was doing my own research, I said Dfsp can recur within 5 to 10 years. But what I discovered was, the surgeon that saw me, that performed this latest surgery, said that she believes there's a piece of the tumour still in the wound after they stitched it up, which is why it recurred. And when she said that, at first I thought, well, I don't think so, but then I thought about something. When she was examining me, she said, you've got a tumour on 2 sites, not just a lump someplace else. I thought, okay, well, take a picture for me and show me where the other site is, because I know where the first one is. So she took a picture, she pointed where the lump was, then she pointed to a discoloration in the scarring of the original wound. That scar had been there easily since 2015. I'd been operated on in 2014, September 2014. Then as the scar started to heal, I did notice that that area was a bit different in colour from the rest of the scar, but I just didn't know what to chalk that up to. And every time I went to the hospital for them to keep an eye on the scar and check it out and see what it was like and were they happy with it and this and the other, no one said, this piece here is different in colour from the rest of it. I just want to check that out. No one said that for 3 years. And this one could identify by sight that it was a tumour. So I was like, wow. So I wasn't pleased, to be quite frank, because I've been having examinations every 3 months and no one picked up that that was a tumour. I remember getting there, my surgery time, I was told to be there for 7 AM. This is St George's, right? And somehow got there just after 6. You know, I took a cab, got there just after 6. And you had to go to the waiting room after they checked you in or whatever. And I was just sitting there for the longest time. And it turns out later on I wasn't going to be in surgery until 11:15. But I didn't realise that at the time. So I was sitting there wondering when I was going to get called in. And when you're sitting there waiting for something like that, you have time for your mind to start playing tricks on you. Start, you know, thinking, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens? And oh my gosh, and it's happening again. And what's this? And da 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 da. And so I was trying to do everything I could to stay positive, to stay focused, to take my mind off it. I was praying in my mind. I was, you know, listening to, you know, encouraging messages on my phone, and they just kind of helped keep me focused and whatever. And then there's one point I was looking at the TV, and articles about this boy who died from anaesthetic poisoning on the operating table. I thought, are you serious? I so don't need to see this right now. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to see it at all. And the more I was waiting, the more agitated I was getting. You know, I was trying to really stop the panic from rising. But when you're just sitting there for such a long period of time, you start to panic. Do you know what I'm saying? And even when I finally got around to, or when they finally got around and said, okay, we're going to prep you for surgery now, I was at one point, I was just sitting there bawling my eyes out. And I'm not a crier, I don't really cry. But this time I was bawling my eyes out thinking, why am I having to go through this? All of this because some fool 30 odd years ago jabbed me in the back for no reason. Do you know what I mean? Why is this something I have to suffer? You know what I mean? Why am I going through this? And I was in tears, you know, and I thought, okay, quickly stop crying before you go in for the anaesthetic. And I tried and tried and tried, and I was like, I was on the table, I was crying, oh, you poor thing. And fortunately, he was the guy who anaesthetised me for the first operation 4 years ago. I was, oh, I'm so sorry, it's going to be okay. Trying to pat my hands, and mum's going, oh, it's going to be okay, don't worry. And they were so sweet. And he goes, okay, I'm going to give you a bit of a sedative, okay? So I'm going to give you a bit of a sedative before the anaesthetic. Which he did. And then the next thing you know, I'm back up on the ward, heaving my guts out again because anaesthetic has that effect on me. And since found out, they managed to get all the tumour out, which is good. But you want to see the size of chunk they took out of my back. I was like, are you serious? I couldn't believe it. It looks like raw steak, and the size of it as well. I know people say surgeons are knife happy, but my girl was really happy when she cut that out of my back. But then I had to kind of like, rein it in and thought, okay, well, she's really trying to be very thorough. Took a huge chunk out of my back. Huge. Because like it's, just imagine this is an old scar, or the old side of the wound, like here. So she's started cutting from here and to the right, because the two areas where the two tumours were, they were to the right of the original wound. So she's cut a huge amount round to the right to make sure that there's no other tumour in the area. I'm assuming that from the beginning of the old scar to the end of the new scar is the best part of 30 centimetres. That's how big it is. And from top to bottom is 9, I believe that's what she said. The furthest distance from top to bottom is 9 centimetres. And it's at the most between 3 millimetres to 1 centimetre deep. So she really is taking a whole chunk out. So what I'm going to have to do now is push some muscle up there and shave more skin for the reconstruction surgery. And that's going to take about 3 hours to do. So that's where we're at the moment. And I just have been thinking about it a lot of these last few days and just thinking like, what can I learn from this? Is there a lesson in here for me somewhere? Because this just can't be random. I'm a person that loves logic. I operate on logic. Logic is a friend of mine. When things are illogical, it drives me crazy. I don't like illogical things at all. There has to be a purpose. There has to be a reason. Now, I'm not quite sure of the why of it. There may not even be a why actually, because I was remembering as I was trying to think about all the things that happened and trying to make sense of all of this. Someone told me when I was about 19 years old, he said, none of us are exempt from the unhappy inequities of life. None of us. And I remember that was at the time when I was really struggling with accepting my height and dealing with the crap I'd get on the streets and people and all the nonsense, just really trying to find my way and trying to figure out how to live life being so different from everybody else. And that is what he said. None of us are exempt from the unhappy inequities of life. Mine at the time was my height. For somebody it might be a disability. It could be anything. But each human being has something that's happened to them they have to learn how to navigate through life with. Every one of us has. And this is mine. It's almost like God said, right, she's mastered the height thing right now. Let's fling another test on her. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just being facetious, I guess. But that's what it feels like, because I've mastered the height thing. I'm very proud of my height. I'm happy with who I am. I don't care what people say, what people don't say. I'm happy with who I am. But then this thing kicked in, something so unexpected, just crazy, and I just think, what does it mean? And I'm not sure there is a meaning as such, but things that have come to my mind as I've been thinking about this is this guy jabbed me in the back because he just didn't like me for no intelligent reason, and he wanted to harm me for no intelligent reason. So what's come to my mind is just being very careful about how I treat people. Be careful with my actions. Be careful with my words. Just to be very, very careful with people. Do you know what I'm saying? Because whilst he intended to hurt me for that day, I'm pretty sure he didn't intend to hurt me for the next 30 to 33 years. I'm pretty certain that he didn't. I'm 100% certain he had no idea that one action would lead to me having Dfsp and having to have 3 surgeries as a result. I'm pretty certain he didn't know that. Yet nevertheless, that's what his actions have caused. Even though he didn't mean it, if he hadn't done it in the first place, I wouldn't be in this position now. So he caused it, and I'm having to deal with it. So it just made me realise that the things we say and the things we do can have an impact on somebody's life far beyond the moment that it happened. We might not even realise it, but that individual is struggling with it for many, many years later, whether it's something you said or something you did. So the challenge to me, it's not even really a challenge because I'm typically this way, but I can be quite sarcastic sometimes. And whenever someone says or does something that I think is kind of a bit stupid or whatever, there's a sarcastic barb right on the tip of my tongue. And I've got to be careful because that person might, what seems to me to be really stupid, they might have been actually serious when they said they might not have meant any harm or any ill will about it at all. That's how I've interpreted it. So to me, it's just like, just be careful how I speak to people, how I treat people. Always treat people with love and kindness, care, respect. That's something that's really been in the forefront